Welcome back, Black Cats. Today we're going to continue our paper airplane experiment. In the last video, we talked about our modifications or changes we could add to our paper airplane to make it fly further. We also asked our question. In my example, my question was, will a paper airplane fly further if weight is added to the back? Today we're going to focus on our hypothesis and identifying our variables. So our hypothesis is the third step in the scientific method. To write a good hypothesis, we use if, then, because statements. The if statement tells us what change we are going to make. The then statement tells us what we think is going to happen, and the because statement tells us why we think it's going to happen. So in my example, I have written a hypothesis that says, if weight is added to the back, then the paper airplane will fly farther because the weight will help propel it. Your hypothesis will be based on your question. The if statement tells what change you're going to make. The then statement should all be the same for this experiment. Then the paper airplane will fly further. And the because statement tell why you think that's going to happen. It's okay if you are right or if you are wrong in your hypothesis. That's what we're going to determine throughout this experiment. The next part is to identify the variables. The variables are very important in an experiment. The independent variable tells us what we are going to change. In my example, I am going to add weight to the back. So my independent variable is weight added to the back. The dependent variable is what we are going to measure or observe. Everybody's dependent variable for this experiment will be the distance the paper airplane flies. And the controlled variable is what things are we going to keep the same throughout our entire experiment. These are the things that will keep our experiment fair. So our controlled variables can be things like the location we do the experiment in. If I'm going to do it in my backyard, my whole experiment needs to be done in the backyard on the same day. If I'm going to do it in the basement, my whole experiment needs to be done in the basement. If I'm going to do it in the living room, that's where the entire experiment needs to be done. This way, no other outside forces are changed during the experiment. I'm going to throw it the same way each and every time I test it out. I'm going to keep my paper the same, and I'm going to keep how I fold the paper the same. There could be other variables that you keep the same throughout the whole experiment. You can list as many of these as you can think of. But remember, there's only one independent variable and there's only one dependent variable. These can be as many as you can think of. That's all we're going to do for our experiment today. Remember, hypothesis, if, then because, and identifying your variables. Now I want you to take a look at your experiment that you started setting up in the previous video. And I want you to write your hypothesis and identify your variables. Good luck and have fun, Black Cats!